Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted the biomask covering her face and checked her reflection in the shuttle's window. The face looking back at her was not her own. Green-tinted skin, larger eyes, and elongated features made her look like any other Zephyrian delegate. The transformation had taken months of painful procedures, but it was perfect. No one would suspect that a human walked among them. The shuttle docked at Nexus Station with a soft thud. Sarah gathered her diplomatic pouch and stepped into the corridor. The station buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of alien species moved through the halls. She recognized most of them from her studies: the tall, blue-skinned Altarians with their proud bearing, the insect-like Veltar clicking their mandibles as they spoke, the floating, crystalline beings of the collective that hummed with internal light. None of them knew what she really was. Sarah made her way to the main assembly hall, keeping her movements slow and deliberate like a true Zephyrian. She had spent years studying their culture, their mannerisms, their way of speaking. Her cover identity as Kethvar, a minor trade delegate from the Outer Rim, was solid. The real Kethvar had died in a transport accident 3 months ago, and Earth's intelligence services had been quick to replace him. The assembly hall was massive, with seating arranged in concentric circles around a central speaking platform. Sarah took her assigned seat in the outer ring, where minor delegates sat. It was perfect for observation. She activated the neural implant behind her ear, beginning to record everything she saw and heard. The session began with ceremonial greetings, in a dozen languages. Then, the speaker of the assembly, an ancient crystalline being whose internal light pulsed with authority, called for attention. "We gather today to address the growing threat of human expansion," the speaker announced. Its voice resonated through the hall like a bell. "Reports from our border world speak of increasing aggression and territorial violations." A murmur of agreement swept through the assembly. Sarah kept her expression neutral, but her heart raced. This was why she was here. Earth's leadership had suspected the aliens were planning something, but they needed proof. The first to speak was General Thakmor of the Hegemony, a massive reptilian being with scarred hide and glowing red eyes. He stood at the central platform, his voice booming through the hall. "The humans multiply like parasites," he declared. "They spread from world to world, consuming resources and showing no respect for established territories. They have violated 17 treaty zones in the past year alone." Sarah frowned. She knew for certain that humans had only entered 3 disputed systems, and those had been uninhabited, but she remained silent, continuing to record. Next came Ambassador Silthara of the Veltar Collective. Her insect-like form clicked and chittered as she spoke. "The humans destroyed our sacred breeding grounds on Kepler 442b. Thousands of our young died because of their terraforming machines. They showed no mercy, no understanding of what they were destroying." This was completely false. Sarah knew that Kepler 442b had been abandoned by the Veltar for over a century before humans arrived. There had been no breeding grounds there for generations. But again, she stayed quiet. More speakers followed. Each one told stories of human aggression, human cruelty, human disregard for alien life. Some of the stories had grains of truth, but most were exaggerated or completely fabricated. Sarah realized she was witnessing a carefully orchestrated propaganda campaign. The Altarian delegate, Commander Velhan, spoke of human pirates attacking their merchant vessels. The gas giant dwellers of Titan 7 claimed humans had poisoned their atmospheric breeding chambers. Even the peaceful gardener species accused humans of strip mining their sanctuary worlds. With each accusation, the mood in the hall grew darker. Sarah could feel the hatred building like a storm. These beings didn't just dislike humans. They wanted them gone. Completely gone. "We have been patient too long," declared the speaker, its crystalline form blazing brighter. "The humans continue to spread, continue to destroy, continue to show that they cannot coexist with civilized species." Cheers and aggressive sounds erupted from the assembled delegates. Sarah's blood ran cold as she watched supposedly civilized beings bay for the blood of her species. General Thakmor stood again, raising his massive claws for silence. "I have news that will concern you all," he announced. "Our intelligence networks have finally located the primary human colony worlds. We know where their biggest populations are concentrated." The hall fell silent. Sarah's hands gripped her seat so tightly her knuckles went white beneath her biomask. New Terra, their largest colony, houses over 50 million humans, Thakmor continued. Their agricultural world of Green Valley feeds a dozen other systems, and their mining operations on Iron Ridge supply raw materials for their entire expansion fleet. Sarah knew these worlds. Her brother David lived on Green Valley with his wife and 2 young children. The thought of these aliens planning attacks on innocent families made her sick. "With this information," Thakmor said, his reptilian smile showing rows of sharp teeth, "we can finally put an end to the human plague." The assembly erupted in excited chatter. Different species began discussing military capabilities, weapon systems, and attack strategies. Sarah listened in horror as they casually planned genocide. The Veltar suggested using their bioweapons to poison human food supplies. The Crystalline Collective offered their energy beam technology for orbital bombardment. Even the usually peaceful gardeners spoke of releasing toxic spores into human atmospheric systems. "We must move quickly," urged Ambassador Silthara, "before they can spread further or strengthen their defenses." "Agreed," said the speaker. "We will vote on formal military action at tomorrow's session. I suggest each delegation prepare their contributions to this necessary action." As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Sarah remained in her seat. Her mind raced with the intelligence she had gathered. The aliens weren't just planning border skirmishes or trade sanctions, they were planning total extermination. She watched General Thakmor speaking with a group of military advisors near the platform. Their voices were low, but her enhanced hearing implants picked up fragments of their conversation. Orbital strikes should begin simultaneously. Eliminate their shipyards first. No survivors, no refugees. Sarah stood slowly, her legs shaking. She had to get this information to Earth immediately, but she also had to maintain her cover. If the aliens suspected there were human operatives among them, it would ruin everything. As she walked toward the exit, keeping pace with other minor delegates, Sarah's comm implant buzzed with an encrypted message. It was from her handler on Earth using emergency protocols. "Package received?" the message asked. Sarah touched her ear twice, signaling affirmative. The data from today's session was already uploading through quantum burst transmission. Earth would know about the planned attack within hours, but would it be enough time to prepare defenses? And how could humanity fight back against dozens of alien species working together? Sarah stepped into the corridor outside the assembly hall. Surrounded by beings who wanted to wipe out every human in the galaxy, they chatted casually about dinner plans and entertainment while plotting mass murder. The contrast made her feel sick. Tomorrow there would be another session, and they would vote to make their genocide official. She had less than 24 hours to gather more intelligence and find some way to stop them. As she walked back to her quarters, Sarah caught her reflection in a passing window. The alien face stared back at her, but inside, her human determination burned brighter than ever. These aliens had made one critical mistake. They thought humans were weak, isolated, and unprepared. They had no idea how wrong they were. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the assembly hall early. She wanted to observe the delegates as they gathered, hoping to overhear private conversations that might reveal more about their plans. Her neural implant continued recording everything, building a comprehensive intelligence file for Earth. The hall filled quickly. Representatives seemed more animated today, excited about the upcoming vote. Sarah noticed several military advisors who hadn't been present yesterday. This wasn't just a political discussion anymore. It was a war council. The speaker called the session to order with its resonating chime. "Today, we will hear detailed testimony about human crimes against our member species. Then we will vote on appropriate responses." The first witness was High Priestess Mordai of the Veltar. Her insect-like form moved to the central platform with clicking steps. Multiple eyes focused on the assembly as she began to speak. "The humans came to our sacred world of Kepler 442b like locusts, she said, her voice filled with manufactured grief. They ignored our warnings, our pleas, our desperate attempts to explain the significance of that place. Their terraforming machines tore apart breeding chambers that had been blessed for 1,000 generations. Sarah knew this was a lie. The Veltar had abandoned Kepler 442b after their sun went through a minor stellar flare that made the system uncomfortable for their species. The planet had been empty for over a century when human colonists arrived. There were no breeding chambers, no sacred sites, nothing but empty ruins. But the assembly listened with growing anger. Many delegates made sounds of sympathy and outrage. "Show them the recordings," urged the speaker. A holographic display activated above the platform. It showed human terraforming equipment working on a barren planet. But the images had been carefully edited. Ancient empty Veltar structures were made to look recently inhabited. Computer-generated Veltar young were added to the scenes, appearing to flee from human machinery. Thousands of our children died. More die continued as the false images played. The humans showed no mercy, no understanding. They treated our most sacred places like garbage to be cleared away. The hall erupted in angry sounds. Delegates from different species shouted their support for the Veltar and their condemnation of humanity. Next came Admiral Zenkara of the Altarian fleet. His tall, blue-skinned form radiated military bearing as he approached the platform. "Human, pirates have been attacking our merchant vessels for months," he declared. "They steal our cargo, damage our ships, and show no respect for interstellar law. Yesterday, they destroyed the civilian transport Star of Peace, killing 300 innocent traders." Sarah's enhanced memory immediately flagged this claim. According to her briefings, the Star of Peace had been destroyed in an accident near a black hole. The human merchant vessel that responded to their distress call had actually rescued 200 survivors, but the Admiral was telling a completely different story. "We have evidence," Zenkara continued. Holos showed a human ship near the wreckage of an Altarian vessel. But Sarah could see the images had been manipulated, weapon signatures had been faked, and the timeline had been altered to make it look like an attack instead of a rescue. The lies continued for hours. Each species told increasingly dramatic stories of human aggression. The gas giant dwellers claimed humans had poisoned their breeding atmosphere, when Sarah knew the contamination had come from natural solar radiation. The Crystal Collective accused humans of strip mining sentient mineral beings, but those mines had been abandoned for decades, before humans arrived. What disturbed Sarah most was how coordinated these lies were. Someone had planned this carefully, creating false evidence and coaching witnesses. This wasn't random hatred. It was organized propaganda designed to justify genocide. During a recess, Sarah moved carefully through the crowd, listening to private conversations while maintaining her Zephyrian character. "The vote is just a formality," she heard General Thakmor tell a group of military officers. "Fleet positions are already being prepared. We can begin strikes within days of authorization." "What? About their defenses?" asked a Veltar commander. Thakmor's reptilian laugh was cold. "Humans rely too much on technology and not enough on warrior spirit. Their ships are fast but lightly armored. Their weapons are precise but lack stopping power. A coordinated assault will break them quickly." Sarah almost smiled despite the circumstances. The aliens clearly didn't understand human military doctrine at all. They saw human ships retreat from overwhelming odds and mistook tactical flexibility for weakness. They saw human weapons designed for precision strikes and missed the devastating effectiveness of coordinated human tactics. She moved to another group, where Ambassador Silthara was speaking with delegates from 3 different species. "The breeding world attacks must be simultaneous," Silthara was saying. "If we give humans time to evacuate their young, some will escape to continue their expansion. My battle fleets can reach Green Valley in 6 days," offered a hegemony admiral. "The population centers are poorly defended. We can achieve total elimination before they mount any response." Sarah's heart clenched. David's family lived in Green Valley's capital city. She thought of her 5-year-old niece Emma playing in the gardens behind their house. The idea of these monsters targeting children made her hands shake with controlled rage. She forced herself to stay calm and keep listening. "What about their home world?" asked another delegate. "Earth is too well defended for a direct assault," admitted General Thackamore. "But once we eliminate their colonies and cut off their resource supplies, they will starve. Earth cannot support its population without colonial food imports." The casual way they discussed mass starvation made Sarah feel sick. These beings spoke about genocide like they were planning a business merger. When the session resumed, more witnesses told their fabricated stories. The gardener species, usually pacifists, claimed humans had destroyed entire worlds with bioweapons. The machine collective accused humans of enslaving artificial intelligences. Even the neutral observer species said they had evidence of human war crimes. Each testimony was carefully crafted to paint humans as monsters who needed to be destroyed for the good of the galaxy. Sarah realized this propaganda campaign had been building for months, maybe years. The aliens had been preparing their case for genocide with the same care humans might use to plan a diplomatic summit. As the day progressed, she noticed something else troubling. The few species who might have spoken in favor of humanity were absent from the assembly. The peaceful traders, who had good relationships with human colonies, were reportedly delayed by transport problems. The Academic Alliance, who shared research with human universities, had sent only junior delegates with no speaking authority. Someone had made sure that only anti-human voices would be heard. Finally, the speaker called for the vote. "All evidence has been presented. We must now decide how to respond to the human threat. I call for a formal vote on military action to eliminate human presence in contested space." Sarah held her breath as the vote began. Each species cast their decision electronically, the results displayed on screens throughout the hall. The hegemony voted yes. The Veltar Collective voted yes. The Altarians voted yes. One by one, every species in the assembly voted to authorize humanity's destruction. When the final tally appeared, Sarah stared in shock. It was unanimous. Every single species had voted for genocide. Even delegates she thought might show mercy had chosen extermination. The hall erupted in celebration. Delegates cheered and made victory sounds in dozens of languages. They congratulated each other like they had just accomplished something wonderful, instead of voting for mass murder. "Military commanders will coordinate strike plans immediately," announced the speaker over the noise. "Operations will begin within 1 standard week." Sarah sat frozen in her seat as aliens around her celebrated the planned extinction of her species. She had gathered incredible intelligence, but she felt overwhelmed by the scale of hatred surrounding her. Her comm implant buzzed with another encrypted message. "Secondary objectives now authorized. Prepare for Phase 2. Sarah touched her ear to acknowledge the message, though she wasn't sure what Phase 2 meant. All she knew was that she couldn't let this stand. Somehow, she had to find a way to protect her people. As delegates filed out of the hall, still chatting excitedly about their genocide vote, Sarah remained seated. Tomorrow the killing would begin. But these aliens had made one crucial mistake in their planning. They assumed they were the only ones capable of deception and infiltration. They had no idea that their human enemy had been watching, learning, and preparing for this moment. The real war was about to begin, and humanity would not go quietly into extinction. Sarah returned to her quarters that night, feeling the weight of the galaxy's hatred pressing down on her. Every alien in that assembly hall wanted her people dead, and they were celebrating their vote like it was a holiday. She sealed her door and activated privacy shields before allowing herself to drop the Zephyrian act for a few precious minutes. Her real face looked back from the mirror, and she touched her human features through the biomask. In just days, fleets would launch to murder everyone she cared about. Her brother David, his wife Maria, little Emma, and baby Marcus. They had no idea death was coming for them. Her comm implant chimed with an incoming message from Earth, using the highest encryption protocols. Sarah put on privacy headphones and listened to her handler's voice. "Agent Chen, excellent work gathering intelligence on their war plans," the familiar voice of Director Harrison said. "However, the situation is more complex than we initially understood. You are not our only operative in deep cover. Sarah's eyes widened. There were other humans disguised among the alien populations? For the past 15 years, we have maintained a network of infiltrated agents throughout alien space, Harrison continued. Traders, diplomats, researchers, even military advisors. When we suspected they were planning something against humanity, we activated all our assets. The message paused, then resumed with new urgency. Sarah, what you witnessed today was not just a vote for genocide. It was a trap. The aliens know about some of our operatives, and they're using this war as cover to eliminate them. You need to be extremely careful. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. If they knew about human spies, her cover might already be compromised. Your new mission is to identify which of our agents have been exposed and help them escape if possible. But more importantly, you need to sabotage their communication networks. We're implementing Phase 2 of the contingency plan, but we need their fleets to be confused and uncoordinated when it begins. The message ended with a list of encrypted contact codes for other human operatives in the station. Sarah memorized them and deleted the message, her mind racing with new possibilities. She wasn't alone after all. The next morning brought chaos to Nexus Station. Military commanders from dozens of species were coordinating their attack plans, and the station buzzed with activity. Sarah moved through the corridors, using her diplomatic credentials to access restricted areas while appearing to conduct routine trade business. Her first target was the main communication hub. As a minor trade delegate, HFY would have legitimate reasons to access interstellar shipping networks. Sarah made her way to the hub and began her work. The alien communication systems were surprisingly vulnerable to human cyber warfare techniques. While they were advanced in some ways, they had evolved differently from human technology. Their security focused on preventing unauthorized access, but once inside the system, they had few protections against subtle sabotage. Sarah planted several dormant programs in their network. When activated, they would introduce tiny delays in message routing, cause packet corruption in military communications, and create false confirmation signals that would make commanders think orders had been received when they hadn't. As she worked, her enhanced hearing picked up conversations from nearby offices. General Thakmor was arguing with a Veltar admiral about fleet positioning. Your bioweapon ships are too slow, Thakmor complained. They need to reach the target world simultaneously with our assault fleets, or the humans will have time to evacuate. Bioweapons require careful handling, the admiral replied. We cannot risk contamination of our own forces by moving too quickly. Sarah made note of their timing constraints and continued her sabotage work. Every delay she could introduce might save human lives. Later that day, she received a coded message through the diplomatic channels. Agent Rodriguez, posing as a cultural exchange researcher, needed emergency extraction. His cover had been blown and Veltar security forces were closing in on him. Sarah found Rodriguez in the station's cultural district, browsing alien art exhibits while trying to look casual. He was a young man, maybe 25, and she could see the fear in his eyes despite his calm exterior. HFY, she greeted him in Zephyrian, using their agreed-upon code phrase. I understand you are interested in purchasing cultural artifacts for the Outer Rim markets. Yes, Rodriguez replied, playing his part. I am particularly interested in historical pieces that might appeal to isolated communities. They moved through the exhibit together, speaking in code about escape routes and extraction possibilities. Rodriguez had discovered that the aliens were planning to use human operatives as propaganda tools, capturing them alive to publicly torture and execute them as proof of human deception and evil. They know about at least 12 of our people, Rodriguez whispered as they examined a crystal sculpture. Some have already been arrested. Others are being watched. Sarah felt her heart sink. 12 human agents captured meant 12 people facing horrible deaths, and 12 families that would never see their loved ones again. There's something else, Rodriguez continued. I overheard Admiral Zenkara talking with his staff. They're not just planning to attack our colonies. They want to capture human children and use them for medical experiments. They think human adaptability comes from our genetics, and they want to study it. The sculpture Sarah had been examining cracked in her grip. The thought of these monsters, experimenting on human children, filled her with rage so pure it was hard to breathe. We have to stop them, she whispered. How? Rodriguez asked. It's all of them against all of us. Even with sabotage, even with our hidden fleets, there are too many of them. That night, Sarah worked feverishly to expand her sabotage network. She had gained access to multiple alien computer systems and was planting increasingly aggressive programs. Communication delays became communication failures. Coordination became confusion. Supply schedules became chaos. But it wasn't enough. Even with perfect sabotage, the sheer numbers were overwhelming. Hundreds of alien warships against dozens of human vessels. Billions of aliens against millions of humans. Her comm implant buzzed with another message from Earth. This time it wasn't Director Harrison's voice, it was Admiral Zhang, the head of Human Space Command. Agent Chen, Phase 2 is now active. In approximately 18 hours you will understand what we mean. Your mission is to survive the next day and continue gathering intelligence. Whatever happens, do not break cover unless your life is in immediate danger. Sarah frowned at the cryptic message. What could happen in 18 hours that would change everything? The next morning brought terrible news. 3 more human operatives had been arrested by alien security forces. The aliens paraded them through the station in energy restraints, broadcasting their capture to the entire galaxy as proof of human treachery. Sarah watched in horror as Agent Kim, a woman she had trained with years ago, was dragged past her in the corridor. Kim's cover as a mining equipment trader had been perfect, but somehow the aliens had discovered her true identity. The worst part was that Sarah couldn't help without exposing herself. She had to stand there, wearing an alien face, and watch her fellow humans being taken to torture and death. That afternoon, General Thakmore announced that the first strike fleets would launch the following day. The genocide was about to begin, and Sarah's sabotage efforts felt pitifully small against the massive military machine preparing for war. She was in her quarters trying to think of some way to do more damage when her door chimed. Sarah quickly activated her biomask and opened the door to find a Veltar security officer waiting outside. Delegate Kethvar, the insect-like being, clicked. You are requested to appear before the Security Council for routine questioning about your recent activities. Sarah's blood went cold. They suspected something. The routine questioning would quickly become enhanced interrogation, and her biomask wouldn't hold up under advanced scanning techniques. Of course, she replied calmly, though her heart was pounding. May I ask what this concerns? Irregularities in communication system access logs, the officer replied. Nothing serious, but we must be thorough during these important times. As Sarah walked through the corridors toward the Security Council chambers, surrounded by alien guards, she realized her mission was over. In minutes they would discover she was human. Her cover would be blown, her sabotage would be exposed, and she would join her fellow operatives in facing torture and public execution. But as they approached the Security Council chambers, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed and automated voices announced in multiple languages, "Attention all personnel. Unidentified vessels detected approaching the station. All military personnel report to battle stations immediately." Through the nearest viewport, Sarah saw something that made her gasp. Dozens of human warships were decloaking around Nexus Station, their weapons powered and shields raised. The sleek, aggressive lines of human Space Command vessels surrounded the diplomatic station like wolves surrounding prey. The Veltar security officers stared at the display in shock. How did they find us? How did they get past our sensor networks? Sarah smiled for the first time in days, finally understanding what Admiral Zhang had meant by Phase 2. The Veltar security officer grabbed Sarah's arm with one of his insect-like claws, but she was no longer interested in maintaining her cover. The human fleet surrounding the station changed everything. Release me, Sarah said quietly, dropping her Zephyrian accent. The officer's multiple eyes focused on her with confusion. What did you say? Sarah reached up and deactivated her biomask. The alien features melted away, revealing her human face underneath. The Veltar staggered backward, mandibles clicking in shock. I said release me, Sarah repeated, her natural voice carrying an authority that made nearby aliens freeze. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen and I am a human intelligence operative. Chaos erupted in the corridor. Alien delegates and security officers scattered in panic as word spread that a human had been walking among them for days. Sarah stood calmly in the center of the confusion, no longer hiding what she was. Her comm implant activated, connecting her to the human fleet. Admiral Zhang's voice spoke directly into her ear. "Agent Chen, this is Admiral Zhang aboard the HSS Defiant. Are you secure?" "Not exactly," Sarah replied aloud, causing more panic among the aliens who realized she was communicating with the human ships. "I'm in Security Section 7 surrounded by about 50 very confused aliens." "Understood, maintain position. We're coming to get you." General Thakmore's voice boomed through the station's communication system. "This is General Thakmore to all. Human vessels, you are in violation of interstellar law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Zhang's response came through every speaker in the station, his voice calm and deadly. "General Thakmore, this is Admiral Zhang of Human Space Command. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit genocide. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." "Impossible," Thakmore snarled. "We outnumber you 10-1. Your pathetic fleet cannot threaten this station." Sarah smiled as she heard Zhang's cold laughter. "General, you might want to check your tactical displays again." Through the viewport, more human ships began decloaking. What had been dozens became hundreds. The aliens' superior numbers suddenly didn't seem so superior anymore, but it was more than just the number of ships that shocked the aliens. As Sarah watched their faces, she realized they were seeing human military technology for the first time. The ships that surrounded Nexus Station were unlike anything in their databases. Human vessels were sleek and angular, built for speed and maneuverability. Their hulls were covered in adaptive armor that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. Their weapons were precise energy beams that could cut through alien shielding like it was paper. Most impressive of all were the human crews. While alien species tended to specialize, warriors who only fought, diplomats who only talked, scientists who only studied, humans combined all these skills. Every human ship was crewed by soldier scientists who could outthink their enemies while outfighting them. "Impossible," whispered a crystalline delegate near Sarah. "How did they penetrate our sensor networks? How did they coordinate such a large fleet movement without our intelligence services detecting it?" Sarah decided to answer, her voice carrying clearly through the corridor. "Because you never understood what you were fighting. You saw human merchant ships retreat from overwhelming odds and thought we were cowards. You saw our diplomats seek peaceful solutions and thought we were weak." More aliens gathered around her, staring at the human in their midst with a mixture of fear and fascination. "You spent years planning this genocide," Sarah continued. "You thought you were so clever, coordinating your lies, building your propaganda, preparing your fleets. But you never realized that we were watching you the entire time." A Veltar commander pushed through the crowd. One spy could not have given them all this information. "One spy?" Sarah laughed. "Commander, I was never alone. How do you think your communication systems became so unreliable over the past few days? How do you think human fleets knew exactly when and where to position themselves?" The truth was starting to dawn on the assembled aliens. Their mandibles clicked, their crystals dimmed, their expressions showed growing horror. "We have been operating in your space for over 15 years, Sarah announced. "Your trade networks, your diplomatic corps, your research institutions, even your military advisors. We've been there all along, watching, learning, preparing." Admiral Zhang's voice came through the station speakers again. "Attention all alien personnel. You have 5 minutes to power down your weapons and surrender unconditionally. Any attempt to launch your genocide fleets will result in immediate retaliation against your homeworlds." General Thakmore's response was predictably aggressive. "You dare threaten our homeworlds? We will crush your pathetic species." "General," Zhang's voice remained calm, "you might want to check the news feeds from your home systems." Throughout the station, aliens activated their personal communication devices to contact their homeworlds. What they found made them gasp in terror. Human fleets had appeared in dozens of star systems simultaneously, not attacking but simply there, positioned near alien colonies, shipyards, and military installations. The message was clear. Any strike against humanity would be answered with overwhelming force. "How?" whispered Ambassador Silthara, her insect-like form trembling. "How did you penetrate our defenses so completely?" Sarah walked through the crowd of aliens, no longer afraid of them. They shrank back from her as she passed, finally understanding what they had tried to fight. "You made a fundamental error in understanding human nature," she said. "You assumed we would fight like you do, with overwhelming force, direct confrontation, strength against strength. But humans survived on a dangerous world by being smarter than our enemies, not stronger." She paused in front of General Thakmor, who had arrived with a squad of hegemony warriors. The massive reptilian being towered over her, but she stood her ground without fear. "While you were building fleets to attack our colonies, we were infiltrating your societies. While you were planning genocide, we were mapping your weaknesses. While you were celebrating your vote to exterminate us, we were already positioned to destroy everything you value. Your species is outnumbered 1,000 to 1, Thakmor snarled. Even with surprise and deception, you cannot win a prolonged war." "General," Sarah smiled, "that's exactly what we're counting on. You see, we learned something important about your species during our years of observation. You're not actually unified at all. The only thing holding your alliance together is hatred of humanity." She gestured to the crowd of alien delegates around them. "The Veltar and the Altarians have territorial disputes that go back centuries. The Crystal Collective considers the gas giant dwellers to be inferior life forms. The hegemony wants to conquer everyone else but pretends to be allies." The aliens looked at each other with growing suspicion, realizing she was right. "Remove humanity as a common enemy," Sarah continued. "And how long do you think this alliance will last? Especially when you realize that many of your most trusted advisors and diplomats have been working for us all along." The implications of her words sent ripples of paranoia through the crowd. If humans had been infiltrating alien society for 15 years, who could be trusted? Which of their colleagues might be disguised enemies? Admiral Zhang's voice returned to the speakers. "All alien vessels, you now have 2 minutes to surrender. Our patience is not unlimited." Sarah looked around, at the aliens surrounding her. These beings who had voted unanimously for genocide just days ago now looked confused, frightened, and defeated. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were finally beginning to understand what they had tried to destroy. "You wanted to eliminate humanity because you thought we were weak," Sarah said quietly. "You never realized that our greatest strength isn't our weapons, or our ships, or our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to learn, to become whatever we need to be in order to survive." The countdown continued, and Sarah could see the fight going out of the aliens around her. They had planned for war against a weak, divided enemy. Instead, they faced an opponent who had been preparing for this moment for over a decade. Humanity had been underestimated, and now the price of that mistake was becoming clear. The silence in the corridor stretched as Admiral Zhang's countdown reached its final seconds. Sarah stood surrounded by dozens of alien beings who had wanted her species extinct just minutes ago. Now they looked at her with fear, confusion, and dawning recognition of their terrible mistake. 10 seconds, Zhang's voice announced through the station speakers. General Thakmor's massive form shuddered with rage, but Sarah could see the defeat in his glowing red eyes. The carefully planned genocide had become a trap, and they had walked into it willingly. "Time's up," Zhang announced. Throughout the station, weapon systems powered down as alien commanders chose surrender over annihilation. Sarah activated her comm implant. "Admiral Zhang, this is Agent Chen. Station security is neutralized. You can begin boarding procedures." Within minutes, human Marines began teleporting directly into the station corridors. Unlike the bulky environmental suits most aliens needed for interspecies contact, human soldiers wore sleek, adaptive armor that adjusted to any atmosphere. They moved with precision and confidence that spoke of extensive training. The aliens stared in amazement as humans appeared throughout Nexus Station. Without using shuttles or docking ports, teleportation technology was supposed to be impossible, but humans had clearly mastered it. Sarah watched Ambassador Silthara's insect-like form tremble as human soldiers secured the area. "How long?" the Veltar diplomat whispered. "How long? Have you been this advanced?" "We've always been this advanced," Sarah replied. "You just never bothered to look closely. You saw us retreating from unfavorable battles and assumed we were weak. You never considered that we were choosing our battles carefully." Admiral Zhang materialized in the corridor with a flash of light, wearing the dark blue uniform of Human Space Command. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The aliens instinctively stepped back from him, recognizing an apex predator when they saw one. "Dr. Chen," Zhang said with a slight smile, "excellent work maintaining your cover. Your intelligence reports were invaluable to this operation." "Thank you, sir. But I have to ask, how long has Command been planning this?" Zhang's expression grew serious. "Since we first made contact with alien civilization 23 years ago. We knew this day would come. Your species tends to unite against common enemies, and we were obviously different enough to serve that purpose." He turned to address the assembled aliens. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, you are probably wondering what happens next." General Takmor pushed forward, his reptilian bulk still impressive despite his defeat. "You cannot hold this station indefinitely. The combined fleets of 47 species will do nothing," Zhang interrupted calmly. "General, your combined fleets are currently surrounded by human vessels in their home systems. Any aggressive action will result in immediate retaliation against your civilian populations." The general's scarred hide flushed darker with rage. "You dare threaten civilians, and you call us monsters?" Sarah stepped between them. "General, in the past 3 days, I've listened to you plan the extermination of 50 million human colonists, including children. I've heard your allies discuss using human young for medical experiments. You voted unanimously for genocide, and now you're upset that we're defending ourselves? We were defending our territories from human expansion. Were you?" Sarah pulled out a data tablet and activated a holographic display. "This shows human colony locations over the past 20 years. We've established settlements on exactly 47 worlds. All of them were uninhabited when we arrived. All of them were in unclaimed space according to galactic law." The display showed human expansion as small blue dots scattered across the galaxy's outer rim. It looked tiny compared to the vast territories, controlled by alien species. "Compare that to hegemony expansion in the same period," Sarah continued. The display added red zones, showing hegemony conquests. 312 worlds taken by force, 15 species enslaved or exterminated, over 2 billion beings killed or displaced. The assembled aliens looked uncomfortable as the display showed the true scope of their own aggressive expansion. The Veltar Collective annexed 57 worlds in the past decade. Sarah added more data to the display. The Altarian Empire conquered 31 star systems. The Crystal Collective strip-mined 12 inhabited worlds after declaring the native species non-sentient. By the time she finished, the holographic display showed alien expansion as massive colored zones, while human territory remained tiny, blue specks on the galaxy's edge. "Humans have been the least aggressive expansionist species in known space," Sarah concluded. "But you needed an enemy to unite against, so you manufactured one." Ambassador Silthara's clicking had become almost frantic. "But the attacks on our breeding worlds, the destruction of our sacred sites, never happened," Admiral Zhang said flatly. "We have complete records of every human colonial operation. Your accusations were fabricated as justification for genocide." Gestured, and more holographic displays appeared showing the actual history of each contested world. Empty planets that had been abandoned for decades or centuries. Uninhabited systems that aliens had claimed but never settled. Resource deposits that had been stripped by aliens long before humans arrived. "You created an elaborate fiction to justify murdering 50 million innocent people," Zhang continued, "including children, families, researchers, artists, and farmers who never harmed anyone." The weight of their crimes was finally sinking in. Sarah could see it in their faces. The growing realization that they had planned to commit monstrous evil based on lies they had told themselves. "What will you do with us?" asked the Speaker of the Assembly, its crystalline form dim with shame. Admiral Zhang's expression softened slightly. "That depends on you. Humanity doesn't want galactic domination. We don't want to rule other species or dictate their futures. We just want to survive and grow in peace." He paused, looking around at the assembled aliens. "But we will never again allow ourselves to be vulnerable to genocide. From this day forward, human observers will be stationed in all major alien governments. Our intelligence networks will monitor any threats to human colonies, and any species that attempts to organize military action against humanity will find themselves facing immediate and overwhelming response." "You're talking about occupation," General Thakmore accused. "No," Sarah interjected. "We're talking about insurance. You proved that you can't be trusted to coexist peacefully, so we'll make sure you don't have the capability to threaten us again." Admiral Zhang nodded. "Your military fleets will be reduced to defensive levels only. Your governments will submit to regular inspections for anti-human activities. And most importantly, the truth about your planned genocide will be broadcast throughout the galaxy." The aliens looked horrified at this last point. Having their crimes exposed would destroy their reputations and political power. "The choice is yours," Zhang continued. "Accept these terms, and humanity will help you build a more peaceful galaxy. Reject them, and face the consequences of your actions." Over the following hours, alien leaders throughout the galaxy made their choice. Faced with human fleets surrounding their homeworlds and the truth about their genocidal plans being broadcast across all communication networks, they surrendered unconditionally. Sarah stood on the observation deck of the HSS Defiant, watching as alien warships powered down their weapons and accepted human inspection teams. The genocide fleets that had been preparing to murder human colonies were being disbanded and sent home. Admiral Zhang joined her at the viewing port. "How do you feel about all this, Doctor?" Sarah considered the question. "Relieved, mostly. 3 days ago, I thought humanity was going to be exterminated. Now we're the dominant military power in the galaxy. Do you think we're doing the right thing?" "Sir, they voted unanimously to commit genocide against innocent people. They planned to experiment on human children. They manufactured false evidence to justify mass murder." Sarah's voice hardened. "If we're too merciful, they'll just try again in a few years." Zhang nodded thoughtfully. "The President agrees with you. Humanity will be taking a more active role in galactic affairs from now on." Through the viewport, Sarah could see human ships escorting surrendering alien fleets. In just a few days, the balance of power in the galaxy had completely reversed. The species that had planned humanity's extinction were now under human protection and oversight. "There's one thing I still don't understand," Sarah said. "How did we build such a large fleet without them noticing?" Admiral Zhang smiled. "We didn't build it recently. We've been preparing for this possibility since first contact. Every human civilian ship was designed with hidden military capabilities. Every human colony included concealed defensive installations. Every human citizen received basic military training." Sarah stared at him in amazement. "You're saying our entire civilization has been secretly preparing for war?" "Not war, Doctor. Survival. We studied alien psychology for 20 years and concluded this confrontation was inevitable. So we made sure we would be ready." As Sarah watched the defeated alien fleets limping home under human escort, she finally understood the true scope of human preparation. While aliens had been planning genocide,